Good morning, 5 o'clock. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. We're at 69 degrees, overcast skies right now, and the chance that we'll have some storms moving through later as well. That'll come up in the weather with traffic right after the news. The NCAA is getting in line with President Trump's executive order that bans biological males from female sports.
The head of the NCAA says of the approximately 510,000 college athletes in this country, fewer than 10 are known to be transgender. The White House demanding organizations like the NCAA to change their rules. If universities don't comply, the White House warning they could lose federal funding, but also face legal action. The NCAA adds it will align its policies with Trump's executive order. Melissa Adon, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Should students have the option of virtual learning after an act of mass violence at their school? Two Democrat Tennessee lawmakers think so, and they filed a bill for it. This mom, Kara Puckett, tells Channel 4 it is the right thing to do.
If they don't feel safe, how do you expect them to learn? You know, how are they supposed to just pick up and carry on like that didn't happen? And some kids are going to process this differently, and I think they absolutely do need that.
The bill is sponsored in part by Nashville Democrat Justin Jones. It would require schools to offer the virtual learning option for at least 31 days after events like the Antioch High School shooting. Gun ownership is not something one Tennessee state lawmaker says doctors need to know about their patients.
News 2 says a bill has been filed in the General Assembly that says healthcare providers cannot ask you whether you own any guns. Rickman Republican State Rep Ed Butler's the sponsor who says he was told by constituents that doctors had asked them about gun ownership, and he doesn't want anyone discriminated for it. So he decided to file it. Any doctor found in violation would face disciplinary action and fines. The exceptions under the bill are mental health providers. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Market Numbers Report now brought to you by Beacon Capital Management online at beaconcm.com. Here's Michelle Franzen.
Stocks ended the day higher thanks to some gains and losses within the tech sector. The Dow added 317 points, the S&P gained 24. After some ups and downs, the Nasdaq ended up 38 points. The rising Dow was led by chipmaker NVIDIA, which got a boost after Google's parent company Alphabet said it plans to ramp up spending on artificial intelligence. At the same time, Alphabet's stock sank on a strong quarterly profit report because cloud revenue fell short of forecasts. Mattel stock surged 15% after beating analysts' forecasts for profit in the latest quarter. Amazon-owned Whole Foods is asking the National Labor Relations Board to set aside the results of a Philadelphia union election that led to a labor win. Attorneys allege interference. UFCW Local 1776 calls the company's allegations baseless. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
And stock futures pointing up this morning. We've got the Dow futures gaining 129, NASDAQ futures up 15 points, S&P futures, they are plus 8. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. At the airport this morning, Terminal Drive at Airport Service Road, that's a crash this morning, causing some delays already. 440 eastbound, the off-ramp to the westbound side of I-24. There's a crash on the off-ramp there, and the right lane is blocked off by it. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.506 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. How are you? Welcome on into your Thursday. I'll go ahead and say it, Friday Eve. Don't tell Murphy I said that. It is February 6th, and man, do we have a lot of news. And I got to fit in not only today's news, but yesterday's news as well because I was gone. So we have a lot to talk about. The Democrats, really fascinating. I keep wanting to ask this question. What is it that they're trying to hide with this whole USAID thing? I love that Peter Ducey asked this question yesterday of Caroline Levitt.
Are any officials here preparing to fight Democratic lawmakers in the streets?
I mean, yeah, it's been a crazy couple of days since all of this started, and the extent to which Democrats are fighting Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Doge.
Some elected Democrats are so steamed about Doge. Congresswoman LaMonica McIver says we are at war. Ilhan Omar says we might actually see somebody get killed. And Chris Van Hollen says we have to fight this in the Congress. We have to fight this in the streets. So what now?
I mean, it's crazy to the extent that these insane Democrats, everywhere you go in Washington, D.C., every time you tune into MSNBC or CNN, there's these Democrats, and the level of hysteria is absolutely insane. And it does seem like Doge and Elon Musk, that is their red line. But here's the thing that I'm noticing. Instead of defending the expenditures that we've all been talking about, right? They simply want to scream. They simply want to yell. They simply want to threaten. And here's the thing. They can't defend $70,000 that they spent on a DEI musical in Ireland. I mean, remember, Hakeem Jeffries, can you defend that?
We are going to fight it legislatively.
Oh.
We are going to fight it in the courts. And we're going to fight it in the streets.
Okay, so I guess Hakeem Jeffries cannot defend $70,000 spent on a DEI musical in Ireland. You've got the ever so charming Jasmine Crockett. So I would ask Jasmine Crockett, can you defend $2 million for a transgender comic book in Peru? Jasmine, can you defend that?
We are going to be in your face. We are going to be on your asses. And we are going to make sure. We're going to make sure you understand what democracy looks like.
So I guess she can't defend the $2 million for transgender comic books in Peru. Elizabeth Warren, let's try Elizabeth Warren. Can you defend $20 million for Sesame Street being produced in Iraq? Can you please explain that?
No one elected Elon Musk to nothing.
Oh.
That's right.
Okay.
Not one Democrat in America voted for Elon Musk. Not one.
So, not one. Mm-mm.
You got to warn me next time you put Elizabeth Warren on.
So I'm not sure if you're noticing this trend, but Jasmine Crockett, Elizabeth Warren, Hakeem Jeffries, and all these other Democrats, they refuse to explain or defend the expenditures. They just think that the louder that they scream, the more people are going to pay attention to that as opposed to what it is that they spent this money on. through USAID. And I would say, just because you folks scream really loudly doesn't mean that you're explaining what you spent our taxpayer money on. You're not giving us the reasons why you thought that it would be a good idea to spend $47,000 on a transgender opera in Colombia. Maxine Waters, can you be the voice of reason?
This is not Elon Musk's country. This is not Trump's country. This is our country. He is a low-down, dirty, no good person along with Trump that cannot be trusted.
So apparently no. Apparently Maxine Waters also cannot defend these expenditures. So, and it's interesting too, because part of what you just heard her say, anti-Maxine, was Elon Musk cannot be trusted. And I would ask this question of any Democrat right now. You're the ones who are spending all this money on stuff that the American people would never, ever approve of. I would like to see somebody take a clipboard. You know when you used to go to the mall and you'd have people with clipboards and they'd ask you questions? I want somebody, if they want to put their lives in their hands, if they want to, on the line, if they want to go down to Washington, D.C., or really any Democrat enclave and say, okay, so we've got $20 million. Would you approve of us spending that $20 million to produce Sesame Street in Iraq? I guarantee you, and I'm saying, do this in a Democrat-run city. No one would say that that's okay. Yet Maxine Waters, anti-Maxine, is saying that Elon Musk is the one that can't be trusted. Got it. Now we hear that the Democrats in the House Oversight Committee are trying to apparently subpoena Elon Musk. And I'm not entirely certain why, except to target him in some sort of a lawfare scheme. I'd be willing to bet that that's part of it. So clearly what they're trying to do is they're trying to shoot the messenger and hide his message. But the message is really important. And the American people do need to know exactly where the money is going. And here's why this is so important. And here's why the Republicans cannot stop. And here's why it is really important to continue to play all of these screaming hyenas, these Democrats, not answering the questions as to why they spent this money on such ridiculous things. But I think it's really important because we do have the midterms coming up in a couple of years, right? And so the Republicans have to keep banging this drum because the American people need to be reminded daily as to what the Democrats stand for. And this is clearly what they stand for. And that's why they want to shoot the messenger and try and scream and yell because they want to drown out the message that they have been wasting our taxpayer dollars on stupidity. So apparently in the House Oversight Committee meeting yesterday, the Democrats were, pitching their fit. You're hearing it right now. And they were pitching their fit. And Tim Burchett, of course, we all know Tim Burchett, Congressman Tim Burchett, he was there. And he released one of his videos.
And dadgum, if I can go to Colombia and see a taxpayer-funded transgender opera, what the heck is this world coming to? Look, you're seeing all the fits being thrown on this stuff, and you should follow the dadgum money because always they have a family member or a friend or, I'd like to say, a wife and or girlfriend that's drawing a check from one of these bogus organizations. You don't spend $60 million eradicating rats. It goes somewhere in somebody's pocket. We just got to start paying better attention.
Well, you know what, Congressman Tim Burchett says follow the money. You know who's been trying to follow the money? Joni Ernst, the senator, has been trying to follow the money, and she talked about how transparency has not exactly been forthcoming with USAID. Details straight ahead. 5:15, time to check the roads on WTN.
Still have a problem this morning out at the airport. A crash at Terminal Drive and Airport Service Road, and another crash this morning in South Nashville. This is I-440, the eastbound off-ramp to westbound 24. There's a crash there, and the off-ramp right lane remains blocked. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan. Your weather today, a high of 71. Thunderstorms expected late afternoon. Right now, 69 degrees. At Super Talk 99.7 WTN USAID. And all that has exposed, and part of the conversation, of course, as I've been mentioning, is this lack of transparency. You have the Democrats trying to do everything they possibly can to prevent Elon Musk from really getting in there and digging around. And honestly, I do believe that it's too late. But Senator Joni Ernst was on Fox News, and she says that, yeah, I've been trying to get a hold of USAID and exactly where this money is going for a long time now, trying to hold them accountable for years, in particular, the war in Ukraine. Now, you know that we've spent billions of dollars, taxpayer dollars, on the war in Ukraine. And one of the things that conservatives have been saying, including yours truly, is we don't know where this money is going. We don't know what the money's being used for. It's just every time you turn around, Biden was giving another, 100 million or billions of dollars going to Ukraine, and nobody really knew where it was going. And so Joni Ernst was asking the question.
For years now, going back several years, where I was trying to investigate the expenditures for humanitarian aid, primarily when it came to the war in Ukraine. And what my team and I encountered was absolute obstruction and lies coming out of USAID. They did everything possible to stop me from accessing their records to understand where our taxpayer money was going.
Yeah, and guess what? They never actually gave Joni Ernst the information. Remember what we've been, again, saying all along, the billions to Ukraine, where does that money go? And are there kickbacks going right back to the Democrat Party? That was the big question that we asked a long time ago right here on Nashville's Morning News. And to be perfectly honest, the fact checkers, no, there's no evidence that that's happening. Really? Well, maybe the reason why there's, and I'm air quoting here, no evidence is because they won't give Joni Ernst or any other Republican or Democrat, whoever, the information that they need to be able to track the money that's going through USAID. And it's kind of funny, though, because they talk about how Elon's people showing up at the USAID offices, and they started hiding stuff. They started hiding like their gay pride flags. They started hiding their books because Elon's people show up at their offices. And so they started hiding anything that they thought that they felt would be incriminating. Now, here's what Donald Trump said. And by the way, if you're hiding stuff, it means that you do have something to hide. This is what Donald Trump said.
Look at all the fraud that he's found in this USAID. It's a disaster what the people, radical left lunatics, they have things that nobody would have even believed. The whole thing with $100 million spent on you know what, with money going to all sorts of groups that shouldn't deserve to get any money, with the money. I'd like to see what the kickbacks are. How much money has been kicked back? Who would spend that kind of money to some of the things that you read about and I read about and I see every night on the news and every morning when I read the papers? Who would spend money for that? I would say this, the people that got all that money, are they kicking it back to the people that gave it from government?
That's what everybody wants to know. And now we're seeing posts on the socials that USAID, I don't know if this is true. I'm just telling you. But apparently they're saying that USAID gave millions, some say even billions of dollars, to the Clinton Foundation and Chelsea Clinton. So we'll see as the investigation does continue. But coming up, remember where we started, the original question.
Are any officials here preparing to fight Democratic lawmakers in the streets?
So I love what Caroline Levitt said in response to that question. That audio is straight ahead right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 520 on Nashville's Morning News. And Joan Jones is in the dust-encrusted news corner. And Joan, what's coming up at 5:30?
Well, what are the chances for some stormy weather around here today? We'll get the latest from Stefano DiPietro. Also, the unusual place that police found a man who had been wanted for murder. Those stories coming up at 5:30 on
Yeah, but what I really need to know, Joan,
yes,
is what does Stefano say that I should be wearing today? That's what I really need to know.
You know what? I will go check what he had to say and let you know.
Okay, very good. Because I just want to know
You might need your galoshes.
I need to know if I'm dressed appropriately and if KGB Jeff Malinoff is dressed appropriately.
He's definitely not dressed appropriately. You see what he's wearing?
Yeah, he's wearing a 49ers sweatshirt and a 49ers hat. Does he know that the 49ers are not in the big game?
Maybe
Has anybody
he doesn't
told
realize.
him that?
Yeah.
I would rather light myself on fire than wear anything else, any other football team, but especially the Chiefs or Eagles. I would light myself on fire.
Little self-immolation. It'll keep us warm.
You know
the
what?
studios
Yeah,
are cold this morning.
Chilly, yeah,
Here's the great thing, though, is that I happen to know where I can get some gasoline. So listen, if the Chiefs, you're the one that brought it up. So if the Chiefs, didn't we come to a conclusion, Joan, that if the Chiefs or the Eagles won, it didn't matter. Malinoff was going to have to wear one of their hat.
I never.
Yes, we did come to that conclusion.
First of all, I never agree to that.
I'm
Second
positive
of all,
that is what that discussion was about.
I would do anything else in the world besides wear Chiefs or Eagles gear for the foreseeable future.
I think green would look lovely on you.
Joan?
I think it'd match your eyes.
Yeah.
Sure.
I wear green. Like, that's a fine color, just not your stupid Philly green.
Nice eagle on the front. It'd be beautiful.
Yeah, I'm not
representing. Did you just, okay, I think I figured out why it is, Joan, that KGB hates the Philadelphia Eagles. It's because he's Russian and the eagle is symbolic of America.
There it is.
You Russian, you commie, you.
Commie.
Well, my first tattoo is going to be a eagle, so you're just wrong there. Secondly, I just hate Philadelphia.
That's rather harsh.
Your fan base caused that. That's your fan base's fault.
I don't think, Joan.
The chat will have my back on this.
Do you know what I think? I don't think, I got to admire KGB on this one. He's not backing down.
No, absolutely not.
He's got the host coming after him. He's got the news person coming after him. And KGB is not backing down.
Well, not everyone, gets it.
I would rather go get cataract surgery by Dr. Horn, even if I don't have cataracts, than watch the Super Bowl.
Listen, I can see. My drive to work was outstanding.
Yeah, but I don't have cataracts, so I don't think it would work as well.
Oh, you know what? Give it some time, young man. You'll have them soon enough. Keep working mornings, and your entire life will be shot. Anyway, it's 5:23. Nashville's Morning News on WTN.
All right, I got to come.
5:27. Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, so back to the original question from Peter Ducey.
Are any officials here preparing to fight Democratic lawmakers in the streets?
So Caroline Leavitt, I love what she had to say with all of this because she puts the Democrats right in their place.
May I just point out, if you heard that type of violent, enticing rhetoric from our side of the aisle, from Republican leaders on Capitol Hill, I think there would be a lot more outrage in this room today. It's unacceptable, the comments that have been made by these Democrat leaders, and frankly, they don't even know what they're talking about. Because President Trump was elected with a mandate from the American people to make this government more efficient. He campaigned across this country with Elon Musk, vowing that Elon was going to head up the Department of Government Efficiency, and the two of them, with a great team around them, were going to look at the receipts of this federal government and ensure it's accountable to American taxpayers. That's all that is happening here. And for Democrat officials to incite violence and encourage Americans to take to the streets is incredibly alarming, and they should be held accountable for that rhetoric.
Absolutely. And she's right. You know, a lot of these Democrats, Caroline Leavitt there, a lot of these Democrats are screaming that Elon isn't an elected official. But as she said, Trump said, and he campaigned on this, that he was going to do this. And elections do have consequences. Enter J.D. Vance.
We're going to fight it in the streets.
For Hakeem Jeffries to go out and say that you need to fight in the streets, it's dangerous, it's disgraceful rhetoric, and it's not at all what the American people ask. I think if you went to Hakeem Jeffries' district and took the people that voted against President Trump, not even the people who voted for him, the people who voted against President Trump, do you want a congressional Democratic leadership that fights in the streets or that makes your life better? Most people think the government exists to make their life better, not show up on TV, criticize the president, and not actually get anything done.
And remember the point of this whole monologue. The reason why the Democrats are screaming and yelling about Elon Musk is because they simply cannot defend what USAID has been paying for.
Good morning. It's now 5:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Well, welcome to Thursday. It's another day that we could experience some severe weather, although Channel 4's Stefano DiPietro says that threat is once again on the low side.
I do think this afternoon and this evening we have a little bit more of a chance of some hailstones compared to what we had yesterday, but that's still overall a decently low-end threat, and the main focus will be on heavier rainfall and wind gusts around 50 miles per hour.
Now, the timeline looks like it to be between 2 this afternoon and 8 o'clock tonight. There's more reaction to President Trump's idea to relocate Palestinians from Gaza, clear out the debris, and rebuild so that it's a coastal tourist resort.
President Trump proposed the United States take control of the Gaza Strip.
Level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings.
Trump calling for the roughly 2 million people who live in Gaza to permanently relocate to Egypt and Jordan. A Palestinian resident saying she's anguished at the thought of being forced from her home.
To rebuild it in a way that we see is good for us, not for you.
Hamas responding to Trump's proposal, saying the U.S. will face the entire region if the president follows through.
That's ABC's Melissa Aiden reporting. The search for a dangerous murder suspect in Robertson County ended in a cave yesterday. Deputies found 39-year-old Jimmy Cox hiding out in a cave near Smiley Hollow Road. After a nearby resident told police they saw smoke coming out of the cave, Cox had been wanted for the stabbing death of his stepfather at his home on Tuesday. And discount store Bargain Hunt is closing all of its locations, including 30 stores in Tennessee. The stores are going out of business sales at all locations. It filed for bankruptcy protection just 2 days ago. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Got some problems this morning on 40 westbound at Hermitage Avenue. They say the left lane is blocked off. Can't really tell if it's because of construction or if there's an accident in that spot. Just avoid it if you can. Also, Terminal Road at Airport Service Road, right out there at BNA. It's a crash. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.537, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. Along with Joan Jones and KGB, Jeff Malinoff. I'm Dan Mandis. How are you? By the way, some snarkster on the super text line, 615-737-9986.
Yes.
See what somebody said about Stefano DiPietro?
What about him?
And what did old Stefano tell us to wear today?
Yeah.
Somebody said, well, Stefano says you need to keep your eye patch, Dan.
You robbed us of more comedy gold.
Yes.
Oh, did I? Because I'm not wearing the eye patch today?
Yeah.
People were clamoring for One-Eyed Danny to return, the truth seeker of the seven seas.
Oh my Lord!
That was my title for the episode. It was One-Eyed Danny as a reference to One-Eye Willie from the Goonies, and I just went truth. I had to be a little nice to you, so I went truth seeker of the seven seas.
Okay, so here's the great thing, is that Deadeye Dan will be making one more appearance at 8:35, because if you were listening to Murphy's show yesterday, they basically badgered me into putting the eye patch on one more time at 8:35. So even though I'm not supposed to wear the eye patch, because my eyes need to learn how to work together now.
Oh, you're not going to do it for that long.
No, I know, but I'm saying I'm going to do it for one segment, because Chris Hand, my friend Chris Hand, said, I don't remember if it was on the air or off the air, but Chris said he wanted to be in the presence of Deadeye Dan at least once. So yesterday they called me out of the blue from Murphy's show, and I was still kind of, I'm going to be honest.
Wait, live during the show or just
live?
Oh, were you still loopy?
I was a little loopy, and so they asked me to come on, so I came on, and talked about a few things. I don't really even remember, to be honest. I did, by the way, admit on the air, so I'll admit it to you two, I did fall down the stairs yesterday.
Oh, no. You and Mitch McConnell.
That's what Ken said. You and Mitch McConnell on the same day.
So, his is more depressing. Yours is more comedy.
Yeah, I was I was a little loopy. They had me on the anesthesia.
Is Mitch McConnell falling down, or is he more melting down the stairs because his whole body is just melting before our eyes?
I don't know. Yeah, he looks a little...
His face is just going like this. He's like turning into goop.
Yes, Mitch McConnell is turning into goop. Okay, good.
So sad.
He'll be a big puddle, and people will still vote for him.
Anyway, so I did fall down the stairs, and that's fine. That's fine. Thanks for asking. And
oh, you okay?
I'm fine.
Did you hurt
and so
anything?
then no. And then when I got off the phone with Murphy, I said, "Okay, I know you're late for a break." It was like 52. I know you're late for a break. I'm going to go fall up the stairs now, which I actually didn't do. But anyway, so at 8:35, I will once again, for Chris Hand, put on the eye patch. And so if everybody's got their little eye patches, we can all have fun.
Oh, you know what? I forgot to bring mine.
The chat is calling you Dan McConnell.
Dan McConnell.
Dan McConnell.
Whatever, man. It's all good.
Nice
well, you
job,
could get some of his
people.
money if you were his last name, so that would honestly be more of a perk.
Sure. Now, real quick, what did, because we got to get to the Daily Dan poll, but because it's very timely today. I'm very proud of, can I tell you, I'm really starting to dig the Daily Dan poll. So we're going to get to the Daily Dan poll real quick. But Joan,
yeah,
what did Stefano tell us to wear today?
I didn't even get the chance to check it out because I have to go back into what he's.
Okay.
Yeah, so sorry about that. I didn't record it.
Well, that's okay. So I'd be willing to bet, though, that he told us to wear, I don't know, you know what?
Galoshes.
Yeah, Joan, you're the mom of the show.
Yeah, galoshes.
So let's say instead of the Stefano DiPietro list of things you should wear today, let's ask Mama Joan.
Okay, so look, it's going to be a little on the warm side today, so you can go with the short sleeves,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And maybe even shorts. You know, kids don't feel the cold like us adults do, so like maybe shorts are okay if they're into that. But I would go with the galoshes, maybe a little umbrella action, or that little. See, Chris was talking about this yesterday. The little plastic thing that goes over your head that women used to wear to church all the time.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be really helpful
I actually had to wear one of those yesterday when I went in for surgery.
Oh, gosh. I was hoping it wasn't a public, like you weren't out in public with it.
No, Amy
made him wear it.
They handed me this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't have to wear this the first time. And they said, oh, yes, you did.
You just don't remember.
I just didn't remember. And you know what they said? They said, you made a joke about how it's good now because it's going to cover up all your great hair or something to that effect. And I said, yeah, that'd be a joke that I would make. So apparently I had to wear one of those yesterday, and I had to do it the first time, too. Didn't remember.
Now, don't you wonder what else you said that they're not telling you?
Oh, I probably said some stupid stuff. I know that I said some stupid stuff. But, you know, that's just like any other day without anesthesia.
Well, one thing about the outfits to wear out in the weather today, make sure when you go into work that the AC's not blasting.
See, that's the other thing.
Like it is here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is that, okay, so if you dress a certain way, you also have to take into account, and Stefano doesn't know this, okay, so does your building at your work, does it run hot or cold?
Right.
Yeah.
Because it used to be that this building used to be really cold, but now it's really hot under all these lights. I feel like a chicken nugget that's being warmed over.
The studio you go in for Red Eye, it is a freezer in there.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my goodness!
It's a freezer back here in the dust encrusted news
I'm
corner.
sure, yeah.
I have my little heater on this morning.
I was in there doing weekend shows, and I thought, oh, I can just wear my shirt. I left my jacket because it was like 70, and then I went in. I'm like, oh my god, it is.
Yep.
I was like shivering. It was so cold.
Shiver me timbers.
Yeah.
So, in a new poll, moving right along, in the Economist YouGov poll taken in the days after the November 2024 election, 47% of surveyed Republicans said they wanted Elon Musk to have a lot of influence in the Trump administration. That number has now fallen substantially. According to a new poll, that number has now dropped to 26%. So our Daily Dan poll, very timely. Go to YouTube, watch us on YouTube, and take the Daily Dan poll. And it is, how did we frame the question, KGB?
I got you. How much influence do you want Elon Musk to have on Donald Trump? A lot, a little, or none at all?
Right.
I don't believe it dropped 20%, though. I feel like maybe they didn't. I feel like they're not asking all Republicans. They might be putting some Democrats in there.
Well, here's the deal. Realize that most polls are complete and utter BS.
Right.
So there is that too. So this is from The Hill. In the Economist YouGov poll taken in the days after the November 2024 election, 47% of surveyed Republicans said they wanted Musk to have a lot of influence in the Trump administration. 29% wanted a little, and 12% wanted him to have none at all. And the 12% probably included people like Mitch McConnell and, people that are anti-Donald Trump.
This is one of our closer polls, though, we've had.
Today, however, the share of Republicans who say they want Musk to have a lot of influence has fallen to 26%. Meanwhile, they say 43% of Republican respondents said they want Musk to have a little influence, and 17% said they want him to have none at all, according to the latest poll. So I don't know what to make of it at all. I'll be honest with you, Joan. I like what Elon Musk is doing, especially when it comes to USAID. I have not really done a deep dive into the accusation that USAID was funding news-driven websites and newspapers. But you have. So tell me what USAID is accused of
I am so
doing.
hot on this. It infuriates me. So what happened is some podcasters went into usaspending.gov, which is an official source for U.S. government expenditure data. And what they found was that USAID was buying subscriptions to several to Politico Pro, which is, Politico has like a subscription feature. And they were buying these subscriptions for Politico Pro for people who work within, what did I say? The FDA. The FDA. And they actually spent $500,000 to buy these subscriptions for maybe a couple of dozen people. So those subscriptions...
Wait, for a couple dozen people?
Yes. Yes.
So in other words, it sounds to me like a quid pro quo. So we're going to go ahead, not knowing the story.
Okay.
But it just seems to me like what Politico and the Biden administration are doing is we're going to basically bankroll Politico, and the expectation would be that they'll take out Donald Trump during the election.
Yes.
Is that
so? Yes, that is the accusation here. Now there are some fact checkers, and you pointed this out earlier to me this morning, that have said that that's not true. They didn't do that. Now that came from the Dispatch.
Yes.
Okay. If you check all the way down at the bottom, there is a correction posted by Dispatch. And it said that the headline of this piece has been updated to more accurately describe the contents of the fact check. While Politico did receive funds from USAID and other government agencies, the money was not for grants, but for payments of its subscriptions, which is exactly what the podcasters were saying happened.
Right.
They didn't say that it went to bankroll them. Of course, they're going to fund the money and make it look like it's coming, there for subscriptions.
Yep.
But you don't pay $500,000 to a news organization that is supposed to be independent for subscriptions.
And Politico has always called themselves, like an independent news organization, kind of like CNN says that they're an independent news organization, but clearly they're not.
And the scam was also being run at the New York Times and at the BBC.
The New York Times.
The New York Times, the old gray lady. What do you know?
The old gray lady seems to have had a facelift, and it's very left now, and very woke, and very obviously anti-Donald Trump. That's what they're doing. And so did they say how many? Because New York Times has been very anti-Donald Trump, as everybody knows.
Yes.
I don't know much about the BBC. You said the BBC? Is that what you said?
Yeah, the BBC.
Yeah, I don't know much about the BBC, but
I don't know their bias. Which how sad is it that we have to assume that every news organization has a bias?
Yep.
How funny is it also that New York Times made Trump their person of the year?
Yeah, but they
kind of had no choice because they always make the electing president, because they made Biden and Harris co-person of the year in 2020 when they won the election. So it was only a matter of time before they kind of had no choice but okay,
Right.
if we're gonna have this charade that we're unbiased,
right,
we got to make Trump the person of the year.
Did you say charade?
Yeah.
Joan?
Yeah.
It's a joke. It's a
got it.
It's a
Okay.
reference.
Oh, is that a?
I was just about to look it up.
No, it's charade. It's the charade
Okay,
that
I didn't.
No,
Is charade from?
It's from John Krasinski. He making fun of his wife because she's English, so he goes like, "End this charade," and then he does a British accent, so it's a reference to that.
Cute.
But no, it's
Okay.
a charade that they're unbiased.
Okay. You know, people often tell me that if you have to explain the joke,
it's not funny.
Honestly, completely forgot. I have been saying that for so long, I forgot that it's charade. Because it's just our family does that as a joke, and just always in my head.
Hey, by the way, as you have all of these Democrats that are screaming about Elon Musk and his involvement in USAID, and the American people didn't vote for Elon Musk and all this other kind of stuff. I want conservatives to remember. Actually, need some audio here. I want conservatives to remember what Kamala Harris actually said about your vote.
And remember, your vote is your voice. Your voice is your power. Don't ever let anybody take your power from you.
Right. Never. So, I mean, that's exactly what Republicans and conservatives have done. Our voice, our vote, our power. Just because the Democrats don't like what's happening doesn't mean that what we're doing isn't the correct way to go. As a matter of fact, as I said in the opening monologue, the louder the Democrats scream, quite frankly, the guiltier they sound. So part of my message for today is, you can sit here and you can listen to Maxine Waters and Elizabeth Warren and Jasmine Crockett, and I played all of their screeching audio in the first segment. I apologize. But you know what? The louder they scream, the guiltier they look. And they know that they are guilty, and that's the reason why they're screaming so loud. By the way, I should say the results of the Daily Dan poll thus far, go to YouTube, watch us on YouTube, and take the poll.
Yes.
And what are the results?
It's close. It's 54% a lot, 39% a little, and none at all is 7%. At one point, it was 48-46, like a lot to a little. So
we're still early on.
Yeah, but it's
the 5 o'clockers.
Yeah, but it's definitely like a lot closer than our other polls where it seems like it's kind of like the obvious what the answer is. This one is actually like you got to think about it.
Yeah, well, I think that I will say that even though I welcome Elon Musk's input up to a point,
right?
Donald Trump, he campaigned with Elon Musk,
right?
And he told the American people exactly what Elon Musk's role was going to be with the Department of Governmental Efficiency. He did.
A tease for tomorrow also, for our poll tomorrow. We already were talking about this off the air. That one's going to be close also, but for different reasons.
We'll let people know what the poll is going to be for tomorrow.
Okay.
Coming up right before Joan's newscast, which is coming up at 6 o'clock, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Joan, what is coming up in the news at 6?
Well, the CIA is getting the Doge treatment now. We'll take a look at it. Also, a Tennessee lawmaker's bill that would change the way blood donations are made. Got those stories coming up at 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
.557. Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. The Super Text line is open, 615-737-9986. 615-737-WWTN. Okay, so tomorrow's poll, we're going to give you a little bit of a preview on this. I'm trying desperately to actually make this work with my bad eyes. So, Joan, the question is, for tomorrow, and why don't we go ahead and just give the, give our opinions now. Who has the, what were people debating there, KGB?
I kind of started, but who has the worst voice? Maxine Waters, Elizabeth Warren, or Jasmine Crockett? Like, who is the most, like, you would rather be deaf than listen to them? Who's worse?
So let's go ahead and go real quick, and let's the three of us decide what we believe.
We are going to be in your face. We are going to be on your asses.
Jasmine Crockett. That's Jasmine Crockett.
This is not Elon Musk's country. This is not Trump's country. This is our country.
That is, of course, Maxine Waters. And here's my vote.
No one elected Elon Musk to nothing.
Can you imagine what her husband goes through?
Yeah, Elizabeth Warren's my choice.
Is Elizabeth Warren your choice, too?
I can't do it.
What do you think, Joan? So, Jasmine Crockett, Maxine Waters, or Elizabeth Warren?
The screechy thing about Elizabeth Warren's voice really drives me crazy.
No one elected Elon Musk to nothing.
I also like
We just lost like 100,000 viewers. That's what just happened.
But Jasmine Crockett, it's her attitude.
Yeah.
It's that
We
in
are
your
going to be
face.
in your face. We are going to be on your asses.
There you go.
That attitude makes me want to scratch some eyes out.
But Maxine Waters is a close second for me because she incites violence more than any other person in politics by a country mile.
This is not Elon Musk's country. This is not Trump's country.
The funny thing, they sound so ignorant.
This is our country. He is a low-down, dirty, no good person along with Trump.
Oh, yeah, and you're the paragon of virtue there, Maxine.
Yeah, so that's a tough call.
So I vote for Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah.
I might have to change my vote. I think I have to pick Maxine Waters.
Really?
She's just an awful human being.
Okay, well, Joan, you've got to come up with one. Jasmine
It's going to be Jasmine.
So we are
It's
tied.
because of that. It's that attitude.
All three of us are tied. Okay. Then you know what? Tomorrow's going to be really fun. For Friday. That'll be.
That's going to be I think that's going to be the closest poll we're going to have.
Something to look forward to.
All right, it is 6 o'clock. Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
Good morning, 6 o'clock. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. A little warmish around here this morning. It's 69 degrees, a little on the humid side as well. And it looks like we may get some storms moving through after 2 o'clock this afternoon. We've got more on that coming up. President Trump signed the EO, the executive order that bans transgender athletes from competing in female sports. That happened yesterday.
We're putting every school receiving taxpayer dollars on notice that if you let men take over women's sports teams or invade your locker rooms, you will be investigated for violations of Title IX and risk your federal funding. There will be no federal funding.
Tennessee 4th District Congressman Scott Desjardins tells WTN's Matt Murphy that Congress needs to codify those rules to make it permanent.
Right now, we've got an opportunity with the House, Senate, and White House, like we did in 17, to get things done. And if we don't learn from the mistakes we made then when we accomplished basically the Trump tax cuts, then, it's going to be a real missed opportunity.
And Trump fully expects lawsuits to try to block that order. Another government agency is under fire now from the Department of Government Efficiency. ABC's senior political correspondent Rachel Scott has more.
Next target for Musk, the CIA. The agents responsible for keeping America's secrets and keeping America safe. Originally exempt from the buyout offers extended to the federal workforce, some 2 million federal workers have just 24 hours left to respond to their buyout offers. At least 40,000 already accepting.
ABC's Rachel Scott. A verbal argument at a local KFC led to the death of a man yesterday. 30-year-old Isaiah Maston has been charged with shooting to death a man in the parking lot of the restaurant on Rosa Parks Boulevard. Police say that Maston was near the entrance and he had his unleashed bulldog with him when a couple tried to enter. Well, Maston and the man had words, and that's when police say Maston pulled out his gun and shot that man to death. He's now facing multiple charges. If you need a blood transfusion, would you care if the donor had a COVID vaccine or not? One Tennessee lawmaker says he wants to give people a choice.
I certainly understand people that are concerned. There were people that received blood in the past that contracted HIV, and I'm certainly not even comparing this to the HIV, but issues that we don't know about.
That's Republican Senator Joey Hensley. He filed a bill that requires blood donors to disclose whether they had received the COVID shot. But that legislation could have a negative result, according to Dr. Jennifer Andrews at Vanderbilt.
I'm actually very worried if this decreases sort of society's trust in our blood supply. It might be reflected by people not trusting the blood donor collection process and not donating blood. And that could have direct effects on our patients here at Vanderbilt.
Similar bills have failed in states like Wyoming and Montana. The market numbers report now brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. Stock futures flat, the Dow up just a point, NASDAQ down 35, and the S&P 500 index futures +2. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather. Next, I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. We do have a problem this morning in Talbot's Corner, 65 northbound side at I-24 North. That's exit 88, a stalled out car blocking the left lane. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.606 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Went ahead right back over to the newsroom. Joan Jones has some news of importance.
Yeah, we sure do. So there is, I know we have some listeners in Kentucky, and so there's a tornado watch this morning for the areas in central and also southern Kentucky, and that's going to south central Kentucky. That's going to exist through 10 o'clock this morning. So it is a watch, not a warning, but it's something that we should all keep our eye on as there's some particularly more gusty weather that's moving through in north of the Nashville area. Again, it's for central Kentucky and for south central Kentucky, all of those areas until 10 o'clock this morning, a tornado watch.
All right, take the Daily Dan poll, go to YouTube, watch us on YouTube. Our numbers, by the way, are climbing, and we really appreciate that. So go take the Daily Dan poll, watch us on YouTube as well. And the Daily Dan poll today, and we explained this in the previous hour, Elon Musk, and basically the question is, how much influence do you want Elon Musk to have with President Donald Trump? A lot, a little, or none at all? And go ahead and take the poll. We'll tell you the results here coming up on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Joan, did you watch the signing of the executive order yesterday?
Yes,
ending
sure
the Biden administration's policy of basically allowing men to play on women's sports teams.
I sure did.
Did you witness this moment?
You know, if you'd like to gather around me, I think I'm going to be okay. Come on. Come on.
Donald Trump surrounded by little girls.
It was so cute.
And there was no sniffing.
Secret Service is worried about them. If we have to worry about them, we have big problems.
I mean, I loved that. And then he signs it, and he starts handing out pens.
Yep.
I mean,
what a nice picture this is, huh, Governor? You ready? We'll do a good job. Wait, let me
listen to this.
I want to make this a really good signature because this is, this is a big one, right?
That's not sniffing. That's him signing the executive order with a Sharpie.
God bless you, Mr. President.
God bless you, Mr. President.
Man, I love that.
Yep.
I love that. And surrounded by a bunch of little kids.
It was really a cool thing to watch yesterday. Those little girls are going to grow up and be able to tell their families, hey, here's where I was, and this is what this pen means to me.
Yep.
So cool.
And they've got, of course, the pictures and the videos and everything else. Under the order signed on Wednesday, federal government funding will be denied to educational institutes that allow transgender athletes to participate in female category sports and use female locker rooms. I love that. Caroline Levitt says that it's not going to end there, by the way.
It's a very good question, and the president has actually mentioned this, that he does expect the Olympic Committee and the NCAA to no longer allow men to compete in women's sports. And I think the president, with the signing of his pen, starts a very public pressure campaign on these organizations to do the right thing for women and for girls across the country.
You know, the thing is, we've been talking about this for so long because the videos are horrific. And Joan, I'm sure that you've seen them, where you've got the woman whose nose is broken by some dude on the opposite side of the net during a volleyball game.
Yeah.
You can talk about wrestling. You can talk about kickboxing or karate.
How about the boxer at the Olympics?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trump mentioned that yesterday.
Yeah.
And so you've got the safety of the female athletes. That's number one. But number two, and I've covered this for years, not to mention the taking up of scholarships and medals and prize money meant for women that are being taken up by these guys. And so, of course, all of that did end yesterday.
Again, this is an incredibly popular position. There have been many notable female athletes who have had the courage to speak out against some very powerful institutions in this country. They deserve to have a voice and a say. The president is bringing their voice to the highest level at the White House this afternoon, and he expects these organizations to comply with this federal executive order that he'll be signing today.
Thank you. And one more. On media coverage of this executive order and the topic in general, what's the White House's view of framing that calls men transgender females or similar rhetoric coming from organizations like the ACLU and GLAAD?
Well, it's been very clear. The policy of this administration is that there are only two sexes, male and female. Pretty simple.
I want to make sure we all heard that.
There are only two sexes, male and female. Pretty simple.
I love it. Because, you know, when she says things like that, Caroline Leavitt, why can't I get this right?
It's Levitt.
Levitt. Lord have mercy. Caroline Leavitt says
there are only two sexes, male and female. Pretty simple.
She did mention that it's a popular opinion and move by the president to sign the executive order. During the campaign, you had these Democrats. They were going to die on this hill. They were going to die on this hill, even though she's absolutely right. Poll after poll after poll showed that the American people were against basically men playing on women's sports teams, men being allowed in women's locker rooms, men being allowed in women's bathrooms, and on it goes. The order, this is from the Associated Press, the order also directs government agencies to promote sex-based female sports categories at international organizations and convene representatives of major athletic organizations and governing bodies to promote policies that are fair and safe and in the best interests of female athletes. At the signing, Donald Trump said it's about darn time.
We've gotten the woke lunacy out of our military. And now we're very importantly getting it out of women's sports. That's taking place very strongly.
And, you know, he spoke about how men have really, and this is true, clearly true, he spoke about how men have really invaded women's sports, women's spaces, stolen medals. And he did actually have some examples, including, Joan, the one that you mentioned.
Last year, a male cyclist posing as a woman competed in the 800-mile Arizona trail race and obliterated the women's course record by nearly 5.5 hours. Sounds like a lot, doesn't it, huh?
I mean, when you hear him and you hear people laughing, they're not laughing because they think that it's funny. They're laughing because it is absurd. It is absolutely absurd that the Democrats, this was one of the hills that they wanted to die on.
You think that's bad? The weightlifting's worse. In 2023, a man in women's powerlifting broke 2 world records and outlifted his closest female opponent in one event by 440 pounds.
You know, again, people are laughing, and it really is a travesty. And with this, it really does end, I would say, a very dark history in America, a very dark time in the history of America, especially for women in sports. And when Donald Trump says that what is he saying, the lunatics, the radical lunatics are now out of Washington, D.C., I think it is really important for Donald Trump, not only Donald Trump, but also a lot of these folks within Trump's orbit, to keep talking about this and other things that Trump is fixing, because it is a reminder of what the American people have gone through.
But all of that ends today because with this executive order, the war on women's sports is over.
Yep. Big applause. Now,
so here's one thing, though, that has to change.
Yes.
And it has to change at the level of the media, because, again, the media, and I'm watching coverage right now on one of our TVs here in the studio that says transgender women banned from women's sports.
They're completely misleading the uninitiated.
Right. It's the biological men are now eliminated from women's sports.
And here's the deal. That is far more accurate.
Oh, absolutely.
That is the far more accurate of the description of what Donald Trump is doing. GLAAD, of course, one of the biggest LGBTQ rights organizations in the United States, condemned the Donald Trump's order as inaccurate and incoherent. Can I tell GLAAD what is actually incoherent? Is not admitting that a guy is a guy. Where if kids are in the car, basically I can't go any further. But what I'm going to say is that what is incoherent is not admitting that a man who has male parts is a man, as opposed to insisting that that man with man parts is actually a female. I would say to GLAAD and anyone else on the left who has an argument with what Donald Trump did, you are the one that sounds incoherent. It is 6:15. Time to check the roads on WTN. Very good. 6:16, Nashville's Morning News. As far as your weather today, it's going to be a high of 71. Thunderstorms expected late afternoon. Joan, if I may, are they expecting any kind of severe weather? I think I heard there is a
low.
We've got.
Go ahead.
We've got some issues up in central and some parts of southern Kentucky.
Right. It's actually in central Kentucky and south central Kentucky. There is a tornado. A severe thunderstorm warning and a tornado watch posted through 10 o'clock this morning. So more severe weather is moving to the north of us this morning. And that weather may affect us later on this afternoon. But Stefano DiPietro says that there's a low probability that we'll get to that point where it's very severe.
All right, very good. Well, thank you very much. It's still, by the way, 69 degrees. Remember, by the way, who has been at the forefront of all of this? Tennessee. And Tennessee's own Riley Gaines, after the NCAA stripped her medal, she was in I don't know, what do you call it, a swimming meet. She was in a championship swimming meet. And basically, they gave her medal to a trans swimmer, a guy pretending to be a girl. We all know the story. I'm sure that you've heard this story by now. It is horrifying. And so who do you see? I'm sure you saw this, Joan. Who was in the front row with all of those girls was none other, again, than Tennessee's own Riley Gaines.
We're honored to be joined today by many incredible advocates for women's sports, including the brave swimmer at the forefront of this battle. And Riley Gaines is a person that I've been watching.
And there she was, beaming, knowing that, because she has been at the forefront of all of this. And I do wonder if it wasn't for her bravery, if it wasn't for Riley Gaines' tenacity and the horrific nature of her story and her willingness to tell it, despite the fact that she has been attacked time and time and time again, would this have actually happened? Would Donald Trump have actually done this? I think maybe, probably he would have. But here's the deal. No one has brought this to the forefront more than Riley Gaines.
But for the past 3 years, we have been stonewalled. And when I say we, I mean women. We have been stonewalled by the previous administration. And actually not just stonewalled, they actively worked against us as women and required these men into our sports, into our locker rooms, into our single-sex spaces, and reprimanded us as women if we even dared to question this. So to see the moral clarity and the decisive action of course, President Trump, who has made this a priority. It was issue number 17 on his platform. Within the first, 2-3 weeks of his presidency, making this a priority, it sends a very strong, clear message to women and girls across the country that we matter. And again, that could not be more stark from the message that Joe Biden and his administration sent.
She's absolutely right. And I got to tell you that this is a woman, again, very brave woman, who has been threatened physically. She's received death threats. And yet she did what she did. And congratulations to not only Donald Trump, but also Riley Gaines and all of the women out there who have had to suffer through this terrible policy from Joe Biden and the Democrats. And again, yes, it is going to face quite a bit of legal challenges, and so we'll see where that whole thing goes. I suspect, though, that it will stand if it makes it all the way to the Supreme Court. It is 6:21 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I want to tell you about my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Now, they are keeping you warm this winter with some great deals for listeners to Nashville's Morning News. You can get a free air duct cleaning when you buy a new complete whole home AC. How about a free air duct cleaning package upgrade? You buy the middle package, you are automatically upgraded to the deluxe. And they've also got some great plumbing deals going on right now as well. Now, with Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, you know that I've been a Beehive member for years. This is a great company. That is why I endorse them so proudly. So many ways to save with Busy Bee. They're busy trying to save you money. Again, I've been a Beehive member for over 10 years. A great company with their more than satisfied promise. Call them to get started today, 615-775-7833. By the way, please don't forget, Saturday from 11 to 1, I'm going to be at the Southern Home and Garden Show with Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. I do this every single year. Chad and I will be there 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Southern Home and Garden Show at the Farm Bureau Expo Center out there in Wilson County. Really looking forward to that. It is 6:22 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Joan Jones has the latest news at 6:30. Joan.
Well, you know he's shaking things up, but Donald Trump's detractors are also hauling him into court. We'll tell you which of his initiatives are going before a judge today. That's coming up at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
625, Nashville's Morning News on WTN. By the way, coming up right before the news, Joe Rogan blasting Kamala Harris. Details straight ahead. She's been caught in a lie. Dan Mandis here, February. Nothing says love like gunpowder and lead, like what you find at the Glock store. Now listen, it is the month of February and Valentine's Day. And over at the Glock store, you and your significant other can go get a couple's training session in their Shoot 270 indoor shooting rooms. You can book a couple's shooting session at shoot270.com. And when you show up and you mention my name, Dan Mandis, you both get trained for the price of one. Now remember, this is a private shooting room with a personal instructor, a professional that's going to tailor the session to your current level of shooting expertise. And whatever level that you're at, they are going to up the game. Now remember, to book your 2-for-1 Valentine's date at the Glock store, book it at shoot270.com. You mentioned my name, Dan Mandis. You get 2 for 1 minutes from the airport and worth the drive from anywhere. Shoot270.com and the Glock store. .627, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. E.J. Host, by the way, going to join us coming up here at 6:35, Nashville's Morning News. So Joe Rogan, of course, you all know the story. Joe Rogan, he had Donald Trump on his podcast, and some folks will tell you that that was a real key turning point in the election. That's up for debate. But bottom line is he invited Kamala Harris on, and she refused to come on. There's a book out now that is saying that Rogan manipulated the situation so that Kamala Harris would not appear on his podcast. And he's calling BS on that. This was part of his podcast. I think it was yesterday.
They didn't talk to us, and which is kind of crazy. And which is like, they didn't even ask. But they said things that just weren't true. One of the things they said that weren't true was that we lied about the day that Trump was coming on. No, we just didn't tell you that Trump was coming on. He was already booked a long time ago. This is how it worked. Trump was really easy to book, like super easy. We offered one day. He said yes. That was it.
Yeah, and he comes in, and Trump spent 3 hours with Rogan.
They never committed to doing the show. So all this talk, there was another thing they said that the reason why they did the Beyonce thing, the Beyonce event in Houston, was so that they could be in Texas to do my show. They never agreed to do the show. None of that's true. They never agreed. They also said that they sent someone down here to the studio to do a walkthrough of the set. That's not true.
So basically what this book is saying is that they agreed to do the show, and then Rogan changed the protocol. Changed the deal, changed the terms.
That's pretty serious.
That is a very serious accusation. And by the way, Rogan says, and I've got 4 more audio bites here, Rogan says that he's got the receipts to prove that they're lying. But this was a campaign that, let's be honest, everything they did was a lie, from how she felt about the issues to who she was to where Donald Trump was on the issues. Everything Kamala Harris and the Democrats did during the campaign and even today, nothing but lies. 6:30 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
Good morning. It's now 6:30, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. And we begin this morning with some weather. There is a tornado watch this morning for areas of south central and southeastern Kentucky. Also, that same tornado watch for southeastern Kentucky, stretching through 11 o'clock in the morning now. It was 10 o'clock earlier. So we'll keep an eye on that for our listeners out there in Kentucky. Just know that we do have some severe weather that may move through this area later this afternoon as well. Another Trump administration initiative is going before a judge today. This one is having to do with the FBI.
The Justice Department's efforts to assemble a list of FBI agents who worked on January 6th investigations heads to court today. A federal judge will consider whether to temporarily block the survey, which has sent a fear of mass firings throughout the Bureau. The lawsuit is one of several against this administration so far. Christiane Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
Meantime, President Trump signed that executive order that protects female athletes from biological men in their sports.
The actions we're taking today are the latest in a sweeping effort to reclaim our culture and our laws from the radical left crusade against biological reality.
Nashville's own Riley Gaines was standing right behind the president.
I want to thank Riley. She really has been in the forefront. People that aren't that well versed in this would say that she was the leader. And great job, Riley. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Now, Trump says he fully expects that lawsuits will be filed on this as well to block that order. Metro Nashville detectives believe they have solved the case of vehicle thefts at BNA. 2 Dodge Chargers were stolen. A third one was busted into on one night last month in an airport parking lot. Now, using surveillance footage, police were able to identify 25-year-old Nia Washington as one of the thieves. She's been arrested and is being held in jail on a $25,000 bond. Detectives are expecting to make more arrests soon. That's the latest news. We've got your traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Joan. 632, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Dan Mandis here for my friends at Zero Res. Now, these are the folks that come over to my house and clean my carpet because I trust them. Because I know that they don't use those nasty chemicals that a lot of those other carpet cleaning companies use. And that's why I started using Zero Res years ago. They clean your carpets with powered water. No harsh chemicals, no soap, and no residue. It is safe for your kids and your pets. That is why I used Zero Res way back when, and that's why I continue to use them today. They have science, and that's what they use, science. And the science behind Zero Res and their water cleaning agents is much healthier than using those soaps and detergents that those other companies use. That, my friends, is the Zero Res difference, and that is why I've been a customer for years. Using Zero Res will also help with smelly carpets and your allergies as well. Right now, they've got a great deal going on, the Dan deal. Right now, for the month of February, 3 rooms of carpets cleaned for $109. That's right, 3 rooms of carpets cleaned only for $109. They're also offering you $50 off of air duct cleaning. This is the company to call to get your carpets cleaned. Zero Res. Restrictions may apply. Call them for the Dan deal, 615-535-9376, 615-535-9376. Book online, ZeroResNashville.com.
Got the usual delays happening now on the roadways. A little slow on 24 heading in as you get up toward the Nashville area. 65 is looking fine this morning, and so is 40. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan. Big news for my friends at DT McCall's. Listen, if you haven't bought that gun safe yet, you've been putting it off, you've got to go to DT McCall's and do it today or tomorrow or this weekend, because gun safes right now still sales tax free at DT McCall's. They are the largest Liberty Safe dealer here in the state of Tennessee because of that free delivery and free setup. A lot of these other places charge $500 at least for delivery and setup in bigger models and $300 for those smaller models. But at DT McCall & Sons, they deliver every safe for free every time, period. and no setup charge either. So go to dtmccalls.com. You can get all the information, the locations as well. 5 locations across Middle Tennessee, Carthage, Cookeville, Lebanon, Lafayette, and Franklin. Again, always online. Tell them Dan told you to reach out. dtmccalls.com. .636, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. Let's get right to the Newsmaker hotline and say good morning to our friend E.J. Haas. E.J., how are you?
Good morning. Feeling good? Every day better than the last?
It does seem like that, doesn't it? I mean, for all the haranguing that we're hearing from the Democrats, I mean, I don't know if anybody really is paying them really any attention. I want to start off, though. I was talking earlier, EJ, and you and I have spoken about how Donald Trump going on all of the various podcasts was a really important thing for the president because he was able to, in my opinion, convert a lot of voters by going on Joe Rogan's podcast along with many others. And so there's a new book out. I was explaining this before the break. There is a new book out that basically is accusing Joe Rogan of changing the deal after Kamala Harris had agreed to appear on the podcast. And Rogan, I played the audio a few minutes ago, Rogan is saying, no, absolutely not. They had never agreed to a deal. They were in negotiations, and we all know that for Kamala Harris, she didn't really want to go on the podcast. But this is part of what he's had to say. This is part of what he had to say.
You talked to, what's that guy's name, Brett Breyer?
Yeah.
Where they cut that off after 20 minutes. When they did that, that's when I was like, look, it's got to be in the studio. It's got to be in the studio, and it's got to be real. It's got to be a real conversation.
You and I both know, and by the way, it's Brett Baer, but I thought that was kind of funny. It's clear that Kamala Harris couldn't have handled it. Now, I believe that that is old news, which is why I'm not really focused too much on this, except to say that have we seen the last of Kamala Harris or not? Because it seems like there is this big move within the Democrat Party and the media to try to resurrect her very tattered reputation.
There's actually a lawmaker out in California who was supposed to be running for running for governor of the state.
Yes.
I can't name who it is. I don't know who. He's actually just pulled out to give Kamala Harris a chance.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not.
So, EJ, I mean, thank you, Joan. EJ, that is clear that they are. Why are they putting so much faith in Kamala Harris? Did they not learn?
I don't think they have faith in her at all, actually. I think this is all kind of a way too early in the campaign cycle to make any decisions or really kind of put names out there that is meaningful. However, the 60 Minutes interview was also released, the full raw 60 Minutes interview, right, where we know it was all edited and whatever. The only reason to do that would be to embarrass her. Now, I mean, imagine you're the author of this book and you think you're taking down, Joe Rogan. Give me a break. That's not going to happen.
Right.
I don't know what their purpose was, but I don't think that Kamala has the pull that like her team, her sycophants think she has. We're definitely done with her. We've moved on. I mean, imagine being a Democrat and waking up every single day thinking that yesterday was the worst day ever, right? Like it can't get any worse than that. They're screeching like barn owls out there. And then they wake up and Trump is like, welcome to today, where we're going to do 4 more things you hate.
Yep.
And they can't wrap their heads around it. So this book will come out, the 60 Minutes thing will come out, all this Joe Rogan, they're looking for something to talk about, some sort of a message that resonates. Last night, the Democrats were trying to hold the Senate floor for 30 hours in a silly little tactic to delay this vote for Ross Vaught. But it's connected because basically what they're doing is looking for something that will stick, that will rally their masses. And in this Ross Vaught thing, they think they can resurrect some Project 2025 narrative. They can't. It won't work. All of these tactics, the book, the 60 Minutes thing, all of it, none of it is resonating with people. We're just done with all of that. And I think the Democrat Party is in big trouble for a long time.
Well, I mean, he's doing things. Donald Trump is doing things that make sense. I know that this particular story is near and dear to your heart. I'm sure that you've seen this on the socials.
You know, if you'd like to gather around me, I think I'm going to be okay. Come on. Come on.
And Donald Trump, and you can see this on my X feed at Dan Mandis Show, he's signing the executive order banning trans men or trans women, or basically men playing on the female sports teams. And he's now banned that, and he's surrounded by a bunch of girls.
Watch what I do, and then I'm going to give you some pens, okay?
And it is so sweet. And
it is. It's adorable.
It is
so
great.
Kind and real. I loved it. Beautiful.
And one of the things that I mean, this is just another one of those topics, one of those issues that makes sense. And for Donald Trump, I think there's a couple of things that are going on. Number one is that he is doing the right thing, and promises made, promises kept. There is that aspect of it. But the other thing that he's doing, and maybe I'm a little cynical on politics, but he's also cultivating a future voting bloc. Because I think that part of what he's doing is he's going to earn the vote of female voters.
Yeah, I heard someone say, his first term was playing checkers. He couldn't quite realize the magnitude of the hate for him and the people who would work against him behind the scenes and all the things. And this time he's playing chess. He's playing the long game. He's really looking 3, 4, 5, 10 steps ahead. And so I think that's a good analogy. He learned from the first administration. And now this time he's saying, you know what, how do we make sure America is secure forever? He won't be alive anymore, or certainly in politics anymore, when some of those very young girls are of voting age, right?
Yep.
So this isn't about him. It's about securing America for future generations. I thought yesterday was so powerful because it showed, hey, not just I'm looking out for, U.S. taxpayers and things like that. I'm looking out for real live human girls in America. And looking out for their futures and giving them more opportunities, making sure that their opportunities aren't stolen from them. I had the very immense pleasure of meeting Riley Gaines a couple of weeks ago. And I will tell you, when you hear her speak, she is strong, she is forceful, she's wonderful, like in front of that microphone. What she also is, when you meet her in person, is soft and kind and feminine. And I think this movement, it's not just about the sports, and it's not just about strong women. It's also about bringing back femininity, bringing back, it's okay to be women. Women are different. Females are different for a reason, and we can embrace and love that.
Yeah, and Trump actually, you saw last night, and I played it earlier, that he turned around and he actually thanked her for doing what she did for women of the next many, many generations. And so one of the big questions, of course, will it stand up in court? I think obviously if it goes all the way to the Supreme Court, I think that it will stand at the Supreme Court level.
I think it should. It's funny, you hear people on the other side saying, well, it's only like 10 people, right? Like they're like, oh, this is such a minor issue. Why do they care so much? I would flip it back on them and say, yeah, if it's such a minor issue, you think it only affects 10 people? Those 10 people, those 10 men who took away scholarships, titles, opportunities, team spots, captain roles, whatever it is,
scholarships
from those women. Yes. That's real hardship. That's emotional hardship that those 10 people put on, what, 3-fold, 4-fold, 10-fold of women and girls that they came in contact with over the years, not to mention the physical injury in some of these sports. So, give me a break. If it's only 10 people, let them figure it out. We're so sorry that you're abnormal and that you've got something wrong with you. I feel for you. I do, because clearly something is not right. So, but that's, unfortunately, everybody's got something. Some people have peanut allergies. They'll never enjoy a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'm sorry to say it. We're not making different, accommodations because you can't have peanut butter for the rest of your life. That's just silly. So we're in this kind of weird, everybody has to be accommodated. when the majority of people, and vast majority, really, millions and millions of girls are out there playing sports, and they should not ever fear that they will have to face a man as they get older and into college sports. So if we don't stop it now, imagine what it would be in 10 years.
645, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. EJ Hosty is joining us. Real quick, going to ask you a couple of things about, number one, Donald Trump's new press secretary. She is kicking butt and taking names. That for you, as well as the hysteria over Elon Musk and Doge. A lot straight ahead on WTN. Time to check the roads. Thank you very much. 646 on Nashville's Morning News. As far as your weather today, high of 71 degrees right now, 69. Watch for some thunderstorms expected in the late afternoon during Murphy's Show. EJ Host is joining us. EJ, let's talk about Caroline Leavitt. She is doing an amazing 27 years old, and she is taking on the media like they are just nothing. She is wiping the floor with them.
Oh my gosh, in just the most beautiful ways. I mean, really, I have a real job, so I don't get the chance to watch TV during the day very much. But I make a point. I mean, I'm up late every night trying to figure out what she said, what Trump said. Was there a press briefing today? All of it. And yeah, she's wonderful. I think what's interesting about her is, she'll come out with like one piece of paper. It's not a giant binder full of a whole bunch of stuff. I
said yesterday, I did a segment on Matt Murphy's show, and I don't even see her looking down. Like, do you remember Corinne Jean-Pierre? She had a big book. It was like a phone book of answers, and I called them the Big Book of Lies. And she was always looking down. And okay, so we're going to talk about illegal immigration. Let me flip through my pages to find that. And Caroline Leavitt doesn't have to do that.
No, she doesn't. And it's new and interesting every time. So every answer she's giving sounds like this authentic, uncanned, response. Like it's not something that's been rehearsed and memorized. She's just answering your questions, but she's doing it in a way that is throwing it all back in their faces. When she mentioned the Politico thing yesterday, Politico got money from USAID and supposedly couldn't make their payments. And, a bunch of things were exposed about this kind of abuse of USAID dollars related to Politico. And when she says what's going on, she's like, Politico, who has a seat in this room, right? So she's literally looking at the reporter from Politico saying, yeah, we caught you. And by the way, everybody else in this room is on notice too. So maybe you guys want to clean up your books a little bit. Like, it was just a thing of beauty. And 27 years old. I mean, yeah, she's a 10.
What's interesting about Politico, and you have your background in journalism, and you've hosted talk shows and everything else, so you know this world like I do. And so were you shocked to hear that USAID, they were actually buying all of these subscriptions for people in the FDA, hundreds of thousands of dollars, basically subsidizing Politico? And it seems to me the accusation would be that if it's a quid pro quo kind of a thing, then they're going to target Donald Trump with negative coverage.
Yeah, I think it's way deeper than that. So yes, my assessment so far, and obviously I'm just reading what everybody else is. I'm following the data. There's some really good X accounts out there that have the links, right? So it's all coming from cited sources, like government sources, actual budgets, things like that. So just be careful about where you're getting your information on all this stuff, because there are definitely some people who are bloviating and making things up and kind of making it more than it is on some cases. But did Politico surprise me? No. What will surprise me is if every other news organization is not also on the take somehow. Especially as it relates to reporting in foreign countries. So we can laugh about Sesame Street and the DEI stuff in Serbia and all of that. Obviously, pointing out the absurdity of it is really important to gain the media attention, to gain the attention of the American people. But I think it's deeper than that. No one gets this upset about, finding fraud and abuse, finding, absurd payments and whatnot, unless they are somehow tied to it And I think our politicians, I think our media organizations, I think our shadow government types have made promises around the world. I think they've made promises to people that are, in the millions of dollars.
Are you, EJ, are you possibly referring to...
No one elected Elon Musk to nothing.
That's right.
Are you possibly referring to Elizabeth Warren?
It's too early in the morning for that voice.
Well, listen, I played those in the 5 o'clock hour. And I'll play them again.
I can't. Oof, yeah, I mute the TV when I see her face coming up. But I'll tell you, yes, I think these people have they're scared of something else.
Yeah.
I think they've made promises. I think the entire Democrat machine is coming down. And I think we should prepare ourselves because we've got some bad actors on the Republican side also. Might be a little early to call that out. We need some votes and whatnot. And I think there's some negotiation happening. But I think this is deeper than we're just scratching the surface, I guess is my point.
All right, EJ, how can folks follow you on Twitter? X.
Yeah, please find me on X at EJ under the radar.
All right, we'll talk to you next time. Always great to have EJ's input. It is 6:52 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Always great perspective from EJ Host.
And we know how she's going to vote tomorrow. She's going to vote for... Who do you just play? Dan poll, our daily Dan poll tomorrow.
Oh, you know what? Okay, man, I got to tell you.
Okay.
You told, I'm like, vote. Oh, crap. What am I missing?
Oh, yeah. The Daily Dan vote tomorrow is going to be who has the most egregious voice.
Oh, you want to do it real quick?
Yeah, let's do it.
So tomorrow, just, maybe you folks can think about this. Which of these four, the Daily Dan poll for tomorrow, who's got the worst voice? Is it Jasmine Crockett?
We are going to be in your face. We are going to be on your asses. And we are going to make sure... We're going to make sure you understand what democracy looks like.
So that is Jasmine Crockett. We did just play you the car horn at 2 o'clock in the morning screech of Elizabeth Warren.
No one elected Elon Musk to nothing.
That's right.
That's right. And, of course, you've got Maxine Waters.
This is not Elon Musk's country. This is not Trump's country. This is our country. He is a low-down, dirty, no-good person, along with Trump, that cannot be trusted.
So earlier we did our own Nashville's Morning News poll and I said the worst voice, and we're going to do it tomorrow for the Daily Dan poll. We have another one up today. But my vote was car horn at 2 o'clock in the morning, Elizabeth Warren.
And EJ agrees with you.
EJ clearly agrees with me.
EJ's right about it being too early for that voice.
And you said KGB?
I said Maxine Waters.
Maxine Waters, and you said
I'm going
Joan?
with Little Miss Crockett.
Okay. So we'll
potty mouth.
I don't think any of us are wrong per se.
Yeah. That's exactly right. We could all be right. So, but right now, the Daily Dan poll, watch us on YouTube, like and subscribe at YouTube, and then you can take the Daily Dan poll. Today's poll is, do you want Elon Musk to have a lot, a little, or no influence on Donald Trump? There's a big story out today that says that a new poll shows, I don't know if I believe it, that more Republicans are showing concerns about the level of influence that Musk has on Donald Trump. And right now, the numbers show...
It's close. 47% say a lot, 45% say a little, and none at all is at 7%.
All right, we'll keep you updated. 6:54, Nashville's Morning News. Dan Mandis here for United Structural Systems. Man, we had a lot of rain last night. And you're in trouble if some of that rain actually got into your basement or your crawl space. You've got to make sure that your home is waterproofed. And my friends at United Structural Systems, they can do that for you just like they did for me. You know, the tiniest crack in your basement with that kind of rain, it could end up in your home and cause all kinds of issues. You know, what if you end up with mold or wood rot? Maybe you're going to have all kinds of problems with those in your home if that water does get into your home. Well, you need to call my friends at USS, United Structural Systems. You don't want to have to do some structural repair because of all of that water inside of your home. You want to stay ahead of water damage. Call USS, United Structural Systems. They've got over 30 years of experience in basement and crawl space waterproofing, basement wall stabilization, foundation repair as well. USS inspections are absolutely free, and we won't sell you unnecessary repairs. We are simply here to help. We guarantee our best. Call USS at 615-488-7855, 615-488-7855. You can always find them online, USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com.
Good morning, 7 o'clock. Now I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Want to let you know that there is a tornado watch for parts of Kentucky this morning. It includes central Kentucky and south central Kentucky, and that tornado watch extends through 10 o'clock central this morning. There could be some stormy weather moving through this area this afternoon as well. Here's Channel 4's Stefano DiPietro.
It's later on today. We have the risk of a few more strong thunderstorms to an isolated severe storm between 2 and 8 o'clock this afternoon. and into the evening. High wind gusts, heavy rainfall will be the main concerns with any thunderstorm. That severe threat is low again, but it does include most of the mid-state.
And we'll be on it all day long, so keep it here on WTN. Should students have the option of virtual learning after an act of mass violence at their school? Two Democrat Tennessee lawmakers think so, and they filed a bill for it. This mom, Kara Puckett, tells Channel 4 it is the right thing to do.
If they don't feel safe, how do you expect them to learn? You know, how are they supposed to just pick up and carry on like that didn't happen? And some kids are going to process this differently, and I think they absolutely do need that.
The bill, sponsored in part by Nashville Democrat Justin Jones, would require schools to offer the virtual learning option for at least 31 days after events like Antioch High School's shooting. Gun ownership is not something that one Tennessee lawmaker says doctors need to know about their patients.
News 2 says a bill has been filed in the General Assembly that says healthcare providers cannot ask you whether you own any guns. Rickman Republican State Rep Ed Butler's the sponsor, who says he was told by constituents that doctors had asked them about gun ownership, and he doesn't want anyone discriminated for it. So he decided to file it. Any doctor found in violation would face disciplinary action and fines. The exceptions under the bill are mental health providers. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Market Numbers Report now brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com.
Investors on Wednesday looked to possible future interest rate cuts from the Fed and shrugged off a disappointing earnings report from the parent company of Google. The Dow gained 317 points on the day to close at 44,873. The S&P added 0.4%. The Nasdaq Composite was flat. Strong demand for smartphones had Qualcomm reporting better than expected results for the fiscal first quarter. Revenue in the quarter rose 18% from $9.92 billion a year ago. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
Stock futures this morning on the flat side. We've got the Dow futures up 43 points, NASDAQ futures down 5, and the S&P futures gaining 10. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Got a couple of problems here on 65 in the southbound lanes in Talbot's Corner, right at the I-24 North exit 88. It's a crash that blocks the left shoulder. 24, the eastbound lanes just before I-65. You've got a crash there blocking the left shoulder as well. Injury crash at Gallatin Pike South at Emmett Avenue this morning, and police are saying avoid that area if you can. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
7:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And welcome on in to the third hour of Nashville's Morning News, along with Joan Jones, KGB, Jeff Malinoff producing as well. By the way, Joan and Jeff and folks listening, programming note, March 4th, I believe, is Donald Trump's first State of the Union address. And we're going to have a station event. So if we're just trying to figure out where we're going to have it, so mark that day on your calendars or that evening on your calendars, March 4th, Donald Trump's first State of the Union for his second term. And we're going to have an event. It's going to be like a watch party like we've been doing for a lot of years now and looking forward to that. And we'll let you know as soon as we know where it is. And I think KGB is actually going to show up.
If I don't run the board like I have done for the last couple of live events, I will show up 100%.
All right, very good. I love this deceiving headline from the Daily Mail. But it's a crazy story of someone who feels so incredibly entitled. Listen to this headline. Trump evicts highest-ranking woman in the military from her home on short notice after her ouster over obsession with DEI policies. Now, that headline is so incredibly deceiving. It's almost like, USAID is, paying the Daily Mail. The Trump administration gave the former highest-ranking woman in the military just 3 hours to leave her home following her ouster over her support of diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. So he fired this Admiral, Linda L. Fagan, almost immediately after he took office on January 20th, leaving her to discover the news while waiting to take a photo with Donald Trump at the Commander-in-Chief ball that night. Still, they say, Fagan continued to live at her government-funded home on Joint Base Anacostia. So I guess there's Anacostia? I don't know. It's one of these bases. And she's got a home on the base. It's government funded. Kind of like the vice president stays in that home that she stays in or he stays in now. So she's got government funded housing, and she finds out on January 20th that she is going to be fired. And so she knew that she was going to have to move out. But she refused. She refused to move out. It's like he had to literally evict this entitled person from her government housing. And so NBC News and some of the folks in the media, they've got these pity party headlines about this incredibly entitled, seems to me she's a bureaucrat. They say that she knew that she was going to have to leave because she found out she was going to get fired. She found out she was going to be terminated and was terminated on January 20th. Still, they say, Fagan continued to live at her government-funded home until she was abruptly evicted on Tuesday. NBC News reports. And so now you're getting all of this woman's friends saying, oh, Donald Trump is being petty and personal. You folks know that typically when certainly a new president comes in who is of the other party, that a lot of people are let go, right? I mean, that is Washington, D.C. 101. And so she might be the highest ranking woman in the military, but the reality is that she was booted because one of her big things was her support over diversity, equity, and inclusion. She was the Coast Guard commandant, Admiral Linda L. Fagan. Well, Linda L. Fagan, you should have made plans to leave when you found out that you were going to get fired. And again, you probably knew that you were going to get fired when Donald Trump was announced the winner. Because again, it's politics 101. This is just business. A new president has taken office. They always make changes, right? Everywhere. Personnel and policy changes. And she was told, by the way, part of the story way down is that she was told 3 weeks ago that it was time for her to move on. Yet she didn't make the arrangements, and finally they had to just kick her out. And now she's upset. She pushes back on the Department of Homeland Security, they needed to come in and, I guess, take photos of the home for the next person, right? Because Trump, I don't know who it is, but Trump has probably got somebody that he wants to move in there. So the Department of Homeland Security, they needed to come in and take photos. You know what she said? I do not authorize them to come into my house. She says, my house. I do not authorize them to come into my house, whether I'm there or not, the admiral reportedly told another Coast Guard official. Well, memo to the admiral, Admiral Fagan, it's not your house. That is funded by the government. And when the command, literally the leader of the free world told her to get out, and she refused, she's lucky she got 3 hours. If I were the president, she knew that she had to get out in November. Then she was given 3 weeks. Then she was given 3 hours. And then finally she decided that, okay, I better leave. Her butt should have been out weeks ago. And so then she ultimately leaves, and she had to leave without a lot of her personal possessions because the leader of the Coast Guard and the highest-ranking female officer in the military didn't make any plans to get her personal items out. So she had to leave a bunch of her stuff back at the house. I mean, I'm sorry, but this is a great story about the entitled opinions and the entitled nature of a lot of these people that have been in the government for a long time. Sanctimonious and entitled and infused with Trump derangement syndrome to the point where when President Trump told her to get out, she refused. A former U.S. military official talking about all this says she was terminated with cause 2 weeks ago. And she was still living in those admiral quarters, and she's got to get out. In the Department of Homeland Security's message announcing Fagan's termination, Acting Secretary Benjamin C. Huffman touted her long and illustrious career and thanked her for her service, but she was removed from her position because of leadership deficiencies, operational failures, and inability to advance the strategic objectives of the U.S. Coast Guard, including a failure to secure the border and stop drugs from entering the United States. And the reason why is because she had this excessive focus on DEI programs. So it's obvious that she was feeling entitled. It was obvious that she doesn't take Donald Trump seriously. And it is obvious that she is incompetent because guess what? She didn't make the arrangements to find another place to live. So now, and I've had to evict people from my homes before, and it's not pretty. I mean, it's not. You go in there, you got to knock on the door, you got to get the sheriff in there, and you've got to, kick him out, and it's a very ugly thing. And I'm reasonably certain she had to stay with friends, apparently, last night. And I love how the media, they're trying to make this out like, oh, that cold and heartless Donald Trump kicking her out with no place to go. She had the end of November. Let's see, the election was what, November, was it 5th or 6th? November 5th. So she had from November 5th to February 5th, right? So the media is presenting this like Donald Trump did something horrible. She had months to get out, and she refused. So that is bad reporting on the Daily Mail's part. And guess what? That's one of my actually favorite websites, but shame on them. And that is one of the big stories out there today. So just so you know, the rest of the story, that is the rest of the story at 7:15. Time to check the roads on WTN. Very good. 7:16 on Super Talk 99.7. Weather today, a high of 71. Thunderstorms expected late afternoon. Very, very slight chance of severe weather. Right now, 68 degrees at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Caroline Leavitt, during the White House press briefing yesterday, had this opening salvo as she prepared for questions on Trump's most ambitious idea yet.
The historic proposal for the United States to take over Gaza, announced by President Trump last night, underscores this commitment. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. President Trump is an outside-of-the-box thinker and a visionary leader who solves problems that many others, especially in this city, claim are unsolvable.
All right, so we know the story and we know the absolutely insane reaction. Donald Trump wants to take over the Gaza Strip, he said, and turn it into some sort of a destination or resort area. They have beaches, and I guess, frankly, the whole place obviously is in rubble. So what Trump wants to do is he wants to send all those millions of Palestinians to neighboring countries while they rebuild this. And, you know, during his announcement, he said that the U.S. would own it. The U.S. would sort of take it over, if you will, and make it into this destination. Now, the point is that the Gaza Strip, it is rubble, and they've got all of those tunnels underneath, and it is right now, nobody can live there. I mean, by and large, nobody can live there. So it does seem to me the developer in Donald Trump wants to make something out of nothing. And all of these people screaming that it'll never work, I have one question. What is your suggestion? What is your suggestion? Because this has been going on for how long now? And what we always know, what we always find out, what we all experience, and we hear the stories all the time, the people of the Gaza Strip, these Palestinians, they know death, they know destruction. And that's what they want because they support Hamas. They voted them in 2006. And so my suggestion, and by the way, that's why Egypt and Jordan don't want these people. That's why they're saying, oh, no, we don't want the Palestinians. They love death and destruction. They love terrorism. They support Hamas. They support what Hamas did to Israel. And so I understand that there's a lot of people that are saying, you know, Trump is crazy for wanting to turn Gaza into, you know, the Mediterranean of the Middle East, and that's all fine, but anybody else got any suggestions? And let me ask you this question. Why should we or any other nation, including Israel, spend a dime to rebuild Gaza? Is it our responsibility? No. Do they love the chant, death to America, over and over and over again? Yeah, they do. And why should you rebuild something that is eventually destined to be obliterated yet again because Hamas can't help themselves, right? So why bother to rebuild it if they're only going to continue with their terroristic nature, their terroristic ways? It's not your responsibility to rebuild Gaza. It's not mine. It's not America's. Iran's got all that money that they use to fund, terrorism. Let them rebuild it. Hamas is part of, Iran anyway, basically, because Iran funds Hamas and Hezbollah and so forth. But people are losing their ever-loving mind. Prepare for the eye roll from MSNBC. I should say NBC. Prepare for the eye roll coming up from NBC straight ahead. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I know that this was covered extensively, but I love what Caroline Leavitt said yesterday during the White House press briefing as NBC and the reporter from NBC asked her, again, a very eye-rolling question. I do have that for you coming up before Jones Newscast at 7:30 here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dan Mandis here. Guys, Valentine's Day is coming up, and Brentwood Jewelry makes it easy to get your loved ones something fantastic. Now, they've got all things Valentine's Day at Brentwood Jewelry with earrings and necklaces and watches and rings and even custom designed pieces. This is your place for all things jewelry. Brentwood Jewelry. Now, these folks simply won't disappoint you or your loved one. And by the way, if you think that you might be proposing on Valentine's Day, because that happens a lot, They can take the stress out of selecting the perfect engagement ring, and it's going to be within your budget. And yes, they can custom design a ring as remarkable as your loved one. So check out Brentwood Jewelry and everything you need to make this Valentine's Day incredible for both of you. Tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out. Stop on by 7012 Church Street East, located in the heart of Brentwood, just off Franklin Road. Check them out online at BrentwoodJewelry.com. Exceptional style, exceptional deals every day for over 50 years. Brentwood Jewelry. Again, find them online at BrentwoodJewelry.com. 721. Joan Jones has the news at 7:30. Joan, what's up?
Rain now and storms later. We'll get the latest information with Stefano DiPietro on that. Also, Walmart is expanding its business model. What the big box retailer is planning to do now. We've got those stories coming up at 7:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.